Pakistan is not getting a bailout, at least not yet. The country is on the brink of bankruptcy. The only way to avoid it is to get money from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. It's the lender of the last resort. But for the moment, it is not lending any money to Pakistan. The bailout talks have failed. These talks had been on for 10 days. For 10 days, an IMF team was in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad. Today, they've left without handing Pakistan the bailout they need. How much money did they want? Pakistan wants $1.1 billion from the IMF, and they need this money immediately. Pakistan, by the way, was already on a bailout program. Islamabad wants to revive an old $6.5 billion package, but it has failed to reach a deal with the IMF. What happened? The negotiations are stalled. But the story is not about that. It's about the humiliation of Pakistan. It's about a country's political leadership being brought to its knees. Pakistan is begging the IMF for funds, but the lender refuses to budge. Why? Because it does not trust Pakistan anymore. So the IMF has put some very tough conditions for giving a bailout. I'll tell you about the conditions, but first, just to give you a sense of how serious Pakistan's predicament is, let me quote what their Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif, said last week. Our economic challenge is unimaginable. The conditions we will have to agree to with the IMF are beyond imagination. But we will have to agree with the conditions. So what are these conditions? Let's bring you the inside story. Why can't Pakistan get the bailout it needs? Fundamentally, this is about trust. The IMF does not trust Pakistan. And who can blame them? This is Pakistan's bailout number 23. This country is the most frequent and by all accounts the worst borrower. Pakistan has sought more bailouts than any other country in the world. That should tell you something. Think of the situation like approaching a bank. If you have a steady income, if you pay your EMIs on time and have a good record, you'll easily get the loan that you want. But what happens when you have a poor credit history? When your records show that you're a serial defaulter, what happens then? When you have a large pile of debt, plus you don't have the money to repay it, the bank will not go easy on you. It will ask you to put up more collateral, or worse, it will not give you any loans at all. That's the juncture at which Pakistan is. It is on the brink of a sovereign default. The IMF is not sure about giving Pakistan a loan, so it's making tough demands. What kind of demands? I have a list. Increase electricity and gas rates and firm commitments from bilateral partners. Here the IMF is talking about countries which have lent money to Pakistan, the bilateral partners, countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, China. What kind of assurances does the International Monetary Fund need? Broadly, two things. First, easier terms on existing loans, and second, more loans. Because borrowing from the IMF is not going to be enough. Pakistan will not be able to meet its expenses just with the money that it gets from the International Monetary Fund. So it needs to borrow more. It must figure out where the rest of the money will come from. Here's how that would work out. That could work out. Reports say Saudi Arabia could step up. As of May 2022, Saudi Arabia had given Pakistan $4.2 billion in assistance, $4.2 billion. Riyadh could now give an additional loan of $2 billion. It is said to be looking into the possibility. The UAE gave a $2 billion loan earlier. Now it would give another $1 billion, or so the reports say. Pakistan has also made an appeal to China. It has made two requests, an additional loan of $1.5 billion and the rollover of existing debt. Will China come through though? We'll get to that in a bit. For the moment, I'm going to go back to that IMF review. The lender does not have a great impression of Pakistan, and I'm not the one saying this, the Pakistani press is. Look at some of their reportage. This is the Express Tribune, and I'm quoting, "Due to a credibility crisis, the IMF was not willing to blindly trust Pakistan this time and has set many prior conditions." Next, we have the Dawn, and this is what they say. The fund, which is the IMF, was, however, still not confident about external financing commitments, particularly from the friendly countries, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and China, besides some other multilateral funding. Just look at the choice of words in the Pakistani press. credibility of crisis, lack of confidence. We're talking about a sovereign country here. Lending money to a government is supposed to be the most secure investment or among the best. But that's clearly not the case with Pakistan. The writing is on the wall for Pakistan. It is caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Their only hope? The bailout deal is not dead. The IMF says some progress has been made, but Islamabad needs to do more. Listen to what the International Monetary Fund has said, and I'm quoting again, "The timely and decisive implementation of these policies along with resolute financial support from official partners are critical for Pakistan." So Pakistan needs to first implement the demands, then come back to the IMF. Another meeting is scheduled for Monday.
आपको कंफर्म कर रहा हूं कि MEFP जो है
I am confirming that we have got the Memorandum of Financial and Economic Policies at 9 a.m. this morning as per their commitment. We will completely go through it over the weekend and we will have virtual meeting with them on Monday.
उनके साथ हमारी obviously virtual meeting होगी हम कोशिश करेंगे इंशाल्लाह कि पाकिस्तान दूसरी दफा
God willing, we will try to complete the IMF program for the second time in Pakistan's history with the same spirit. We have completed this process, keeping in view the sovereign commitment.
सारा प्रोसेस जो है वो मुकम्मल किया है
Pakistan must show progress to get this bailout. But before that, they have to deal with an even more urgent problem: China.